welcome to MorTorq's final Woman in STEM event of the year. Thank you so much for joining us.
Tonight, we will get to hear from 4 successful women in STEM careers. We will discuss their paths to their accomplishments and how they work to champion young girls in STEM.
So I'd like to first start off by thanking each of you guys for joining us and taking the time out of your crazy schedules to meet with us and speak to our audience. We're all so lucky to have you.
To start off, please introduce yourself to our audience, telling us a bit about who you are and where you work.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me. It is so exciting to speak to both you, Sarah and Eva. I know we've been trying to do this for some time now, so what an exciting time. So to tell you a little bit more about me, I am an entrepreneur and I am the founder of Tech-Sesh.co. It's a community for women by women. We host events and we also do curated meetups where women get to meet one another and learn more about the tech industry. A lot of the content really revolves on how to get more women in tech and STEM and how to really keep them there and take them to the next leadership position. So the end goal really is to have more female founders, more female CEOs, more female CEOs in the C-suite. It's not a secret, there aren't that many women taking up space in that category. So really our mission is to make sure women are taking those positions.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Klausner. I'm a pediatrician here in Beverly Hills. I am a graduate of Beverly High. I was very into STEM when I was in high school. I was in a robotics class in the 1980s before there was much in robotics. I followed a pretty straightforward path through college, medical school, residency, and then have been in private practice in pediatrics for a little more than 20 years. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very excited to encourage young women to pursue careers in science and technology, and I'm very interested in helping anyone if they are particularly interested in medicine or pediatrics. Please, I'll give Sarah my information. You can contact me personally. I'm happy to have people come into my office at some point in the future when things are safer. But I'm really very enthusiastic about women in sciences. There is nothing that you guys cannot do.
And hi, I'm Debra Termeie. I'm a periodontist. I went to Beverly High. I started at Beverly Vista, then Beverly High. I went to UCLA undergrad and I graduated there for dental school and I did my periodontal residency there. I think women in STEM it's a great, different ideas. We think differently. I think we can give so much to the field and I'm always happy to help anyone who's interested in the field in any way that I can.
Hi, I'm Eileen Kahn. I'm actually one of the founding people of MorTorq, and I was a teacher there for quite a while. Besides that, I'm an education and technology consultant, and I focus on many different things. One of the things I do is I'm a special STEM ambassador for the State Department, and I work with specifically Chile, but I am doing more in Latin America. Specifically next month, we're going to be doing a series for girls in tech. So that's a lot of fun. I also work in the entertainment industry and I put robots and technology into TV shows and movies. So I just worked on Blackish, and before that I worked on Space Jam 2, which is still set to be released next year. So I have a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. So Ms. Naziri, you work as an on-air tech expert at CBS News. Can you tell us how you got into broadcast journalism and specifically in dealing with tech, which is stereotypically a male-dominated audience?
You're absolutely right. Oftentimes there's this stereotype of technology and men, dark rooms, guys wearing hoodies and sandals. And here I am, someone that's always wearing bright colors, usually pink, standing out. And I didn't really have a traditional path in technology or a traditional path in broadcast. So I did study journalism at USC, and I graduated early. I moved to New York and I got a job reporting on the stock market in Farsi. I speak Farsi fluently, but that was not really what I wanted to do. And then I got a job at CNN. And I was a really, really young and hungry.com reporter. And I kept on asking to do more. So from CNN, I went to CNBC, and over there, I remember my editor asking at the time who wanted to cover a tech story. And I raised my hand, and ever since then, it's been 11 years, I've been covering technology, apps, gadgets, really everything under the sun. And flash forward to now, it's such a huge industry. Everything that we do is interlaced with technology. Most companies are tech companies, whether or not they know it or not. So from CNN to CNBC, then I moved back to LA and I got a job at the LA Times and I started their video department. And from there, I was asked to come on air every so often talking about the latest trends. And I guess, it turned into something more and more and more. And now I'm on air weekly talking about what's going on in tech, what everyone needs to know, why it's important. And it's exciting because it really goes to show that tech has come such a long way. We need to know about what is happening because it's really in our face all the time, whether it's cybersecurity or, something in the realm of, gadgets for Father's Day. There's just always so much going on.
Dr. Termeie, what led you to becoming an instructor at two distinguished universities, UCLA and USC?
Well, I love to teach. It's one of my passions. I just love it. Being able to just help students understand something or gain a clinical experience is such a heartwarming thing for me, and I just enjoy it. So after my residency and even during, I taught a lot in the clinic, and then about 3 years ago, I started teaching at USC.
Okay, so you go through medical school and everyone says that pediatrics is like veterinary medicine, where your patients can't talk to you and they can't tell you what's wrong. And for each patient, you have two people to take care of, the kids and the parents. And everyone makes it seem like it's so much more difficult to deal with pediatric patients, but I see it in a different way. I think that taking care of kids versus taking care of adults, number one, parents are much more likely to do things for their children's benefit than they are for themselves. So I think I've been much more successful in getting people to quit smoking for their children's benefit than they would ever do for themselves. And everyone always wants to do what's best for their children. So if you just figure out a way to approach things in a really positive manner and try and tell people that this is why this is going to benefit their kids, it's really easy in the end. And I don't think that this is something that you learn or you learn in school. I think that it's something that you learn through practice. And it's kind of the finesse of medicine. It's knowing how to get people to do what you want them to do without letting them know that you're trying to manipulate it. But in the end, it's really fun. And to me, it's much more enjoyable to have both children and adults in my daily life. They offer a little bit more joy. So.
Thank you so much for that perspective. I really agree that so much of our learning and our knowledge comes from just experience and from practicing out in the world. So thank you for that. Now moving over to Ms. Kahn, as you mentioned earlier, you are part of the entertainment industry now. So can you tell us a bit about how you use your platform in the entertainment industry to support and encourage women to get involved in STEM?
So one of the things that happens to me every time I go on to a set is I walk in and they sort of are surprised because number one, I'm a woman. Number two, I'm older. And so that's the best thing when I see their faces when I walk in, and it's like, yeah, I'm your tech person here. I do the robots and the drones and the AI and all that. So I love that. And then what I've tried to do is work with the executive producers and the writers to create storylines that are focusing on women not being the bimbo, for example. You know, if you look at some of the shows that were on TV, sometimes the women are not portrayed as being the smart ones. It is always usually the white men. And so I work with them and I try to get them to develop a character. I worked on a show called The Fosters, and I worked with them for 2 years. And the main character was a Hispanic young woman, and she was a coder and she was into robotics. And we did several storylines based on that, where we showed how smart she was. And it was really cool to work with them and show them the lingo that we use, and again, make a strong character rather than, you know, the ditzy young woman who's really cute and pretty but doesn't have a brain. So that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what a lot of the work that I am doing in entertainment is about. Sometimes I don't have control and they'll say, no, we want the boy to be the character, and that breaks my heart, but I'm going to keep pushing and trying to bring the women up. And I do that with the women in South America as well. It's really pushing them to show them that they can do it, and they just need a role model.
And you said that you worked with the Fosters. We have a lot of FIRST Robotics students watching. So can you tell us a little bit about that one episode that was actually at a FIRST Robotics competition?
Well, it wasn't actually at a competition. We actually recreated an entire competition. We did that at Hawthorne High School. And I think I was able to, the great thing was I was able to employ 100 robotics kids in the filming of that. So they all were actually paid as extras. They had their robots there. And we really worked hard. It was months of work on the script and everything to make it realistic. They did a fantastic job. Honestly, it looked like a real competition. It was amazing. And that was just so much fun. But yes, it was all FIRST students that were actually there, except for the main characters. And we were controlling the robots on the side. And we also used the mentors and the coaches and the teachers. They were also in that production. So it was very authentic, which was a lot of fun. And we did that also on Blackish. So the episode that aired, it's called You Don't Know Jack. We actually recreated a competition as well for that.
That's awesome. And can you tell us which episode The Fosters is, in case people want to go check that out?
The episode with the robotics competition is episode 4008, season 4, episode 8.
Welcome to the first Robotics Southern California Regional Competition. Every team must have their robot inspected before our games begin. And once you're cleared to play, one of our referees will run down the rules of today's tournament. Next up at the way station, bagel bites. Academics, you're on deck.
Hey, let's not be intimidated, okay? You guys are ready.
Dr. Termeie, you advise students who are on the path of becoming doctors. What advice would you give to those who are nervous about the intense road to becoming a doctor?
So yes, it is intense, but I think women are more than capable, obviously, of doing it. It's a lot of work, but with a lot of perseverance and dedication. I'm sure any woman can do it. You just have to study hard, work hard, and do your best.
That's so right. Thank you so much. So Ms. Naziri, you also founded your own company, Tech-Sesh, which works to champion women in STEM. Who or what inspired you to become an entrepreneur? And did you always think you wanted to go into entrepreneurship?
I didn't know exactly what entrepreneurship entailed. I'm always still figuring it out. It's something where as you keep working, you keep learning. And for me, the way that it really panned out was after being a journalist for so long, I no longer wanted to write about technology. I wanted to work at a tech company. So I started working at a local startup here in Los Angeles. But it was really short-lived. It was about 6 months long. I really learned a lot. I wore many hats, as you do at a startup, but unfortunately, I wasn't really set up for success. A lot of what you hear when it comes to technology companies is that it's not really an equal playing field for both men and women. And in a sense, I was sort of pushed out. I didn't really have the technical background, but I was able to do work that really caught on. For example, on the back end, a lot of our coders, our developers had data that we had used and garnered from our users. And I was able to create data and then turn that into blog posts and then pitch that to the New York Times and CBS and Fox. And we got written about it in Fortune and Inc. and a lot of big companies. So I was really pushing the data and creating content in that regard. And after a while, a lot of the developers were telling me, oh, we no longer have access to that data. And slowly they weren't allowing me to do my job. So this would happen on an ongoing basis. Anytime I would lead meetings, I felt that my voice wasn't really being heard. I had to speak a specific way. I couldn't lead with femininity, and that's just really who I am. And I brought a different perspective to the table, but at the time, it was something that was really discouraged. And you might hear my son in the background. So, you know, as females, as moms, as women in this field, we really have an upper hand. So I was unfortunately kicked out of that tech company, and I was feeling so low. I really put in blood, sweat, tears for this company, going in at 8 a.m., leaving at 7 p.m., and really working so hard, all for what? To help someone else push their agenda. And then I was kicked out of it. And so it was very disheartening for me, someone who has really thick skin. I said to myself, well, if I'm going through this, imagine how many other females and women are also going through this. And I kept on Googling different forums for meetups and ways to meet other women in tech to kind of have some sort of, you know, camaraderie and see if anyone else had also gone through this. And I couldn't really find it. And that's where I had the idea of Tech-Sesh. I said to myself, if it doesn't exist, I'll create it. And so that whole community was something that I really was yearning for. And I created Tech-Sesh as a way to create community. So we do a lot of content around how to get into tech, how to stay in tech, how to go up to the ladder, how to ask for a raise, how to negotiate your salary, what's more important, salary or equity. And so it's turned into a little bit of events. We do content, and of course now with COVID-19, unfortunately, we can't do the in-person events, so we're doing a lot of Instagram lives and Zooms and a lot of things like this to really tell women you belong in this field. You're bringing a different perspective that men don't have, and you know, we're in this together and we can all accomplish so much. And more than anything, for me, someone who also went to Beverly at that time, I was never exposed to STEM. To be honest, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know it existed. I come from a very traditional Iranian Jewish family, and you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or a dentist, or real estate. And so for me to go through this trajectory to go to journalism and then start my own business and to get into tech has been really eye-opening. And my hope is really to share my journey and have other girls come along and learn more about it and really take the time to figure out, what does tech mean? How do I get started? How do I pick my interest in this? And if you're interested in, you know, reading any of these stories, you can definitely check it out at Tech-Sesh.co.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Naziri. Dr. Termeie, what would your advice be to young girls who want to pursue a career in STEM?
That's a great question. I would suggest that they first go and volunteer somewhere, whatever interests them in STEM. Find someone that they can do an internship with, volunteer with, make sure that that's what they want to do. Make sure they're willing to put the time and effort into it, and to make sure they love it, because they must have a passion to do it as well. I think that's the number one objective that you should have. It's also good because you'll gain experience, and it's great to put on your resume. I would also suggest that they just really study hard, do the best that they can do. But that's the best advice I can give.
Thank you so much for that advice. So Ms. Kahn, hundreds and hundreds of students who've gone through Beverly were lucky enough to participate in our robotics team, MorTorq, because you and a couple other teachers took up the challenge to start this team. Can you tell me about some of the inspiration you had to start our team and to start teams around the globe?
So it's going to sound crazy, but I had no intention of ever going into this. I had a son who loved STEM, and I would buy him every Lego kit that existed, every RC car. Basically, I ran out of things for him to do. And so when he got to Beverly, we heard about First Robotics, and we formed a group of people, and I was just the parent. I had been, a PTA president at Horseman and involved in all these things, and I had no idea that I was going to end up taking it over. But what ended up happening is the kids sort of drove the teachers nuts, and they quit. And so the school looked at me at that point and said, well, do you want to take over running this? Because I was the one who was helping out with the sponsors and getting to know, Walt Disney Imagineering and all these different people, expanding my network. That's what I was good at, was networking. And I said, well, what does it take? And essentially I had to go back to school and obtain a teaching credential. And I did that just to keep that program running. And it was such a wonderful program. And that was the start of it. And then the organization reached out to me and said, hey, well, you've done this there. Can you come work for us now and start getting this all over the place? So that's what I did. And I was focusing on California, but at the same time, I was meeting teams from all over the place. And then I reached out to Chile because I speak 6 languages. I actually studied to be a diplomat. And so I reached out to Chile to see if they needed help, and they said, oh yes, we do help. And so I got involved with that and started teams there and working with them and just helping them every year. And it's just, then I started doing Colombia and just teams all over the place. And that I literally fell into it. I had no intention of doing it, but I also know that once you do like something and you have a passion for it and you believe in it, you can reinvent yourself and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what I did. I had no intention of doing this. It took me 30 years to actually become an actual diplomat and do what I had actually studied for in college. But it came full circle, and it came through doing robotics.
That's so beautiful. And we are so beyond grateful to you and the rest of the group that founded our team and allowed us to be here. And also at the one competition that we were able to attend this year and in the past years, we are so lucky to see you and get to meet you, and every year new members come and get to meet you. So how do you feel when you are just walking around the First Robotics competitions and find a student that you know, or find a student from a team that you started that they don't even know you?
Oh, I love to mess with them, as you know. But it's fun, and that's the thing, like science, technology, it should be fun. And so I go with the attitude that we are going to have fun, and you see that. I mean, we get crazy, we dress up, we act really silly, and nobody cares because we are having a good time and everybody's passionate about it. And everybody at the competitions has heard me talk about my kids. And I refer to all my students, all the kids that I've worked with over all the years, as my kids, like my children. And I love that when somebody says, how many kids do you have? I say thousands. And they're sort of like, what? But I do feel that way. I get to know these kids. I follow their path, from some of them from Lego League when they're 6 years old, all the way up. Now I'm really dating myself and saying how long I've done this. I've done this for 17 years. But I follow their paths. I see them get married to each other now, and it's just, some of them have babies. And I feel like it's a family, and it's a family of kids that just love doing something and pursue different paths. I have kids that have become teachers because of it, and all different career paths. And it doesn't matter what it was, they found what their niche was. And that's what's so important. And it is just one big extended family. And I hope that we're going to get back to the competitions next year.
How has COVID-19 affected your life? How have you managed to fulfill your work-related responsibilities while taking care of yourself and your family?
That's also a very good question. So I have 2 kids. so they're not in school. So I'm the teacher now. So I can't work at this time. But instead I'm doing, as a dentist, you really have to see a patient. You can't do it from home. So what I'm doing is for my classes at UCLA, I prepared lectures very similar to this, Zoom lectures that are recorded, and then they will see it. And just making sure we have the proper attire, PPE, so that everyone's safe, the staff, we are, and our patients. And just, preparing as much as we can with suction and everything so that everyone feels safe when they get back. I do plan to go back in the second week of June and start seeing patients. And I really welcome anyone who's interested in dentistry to contact me, and Sarah has my information. They can come shadow me and see if they like dentistry, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Klausner, you lead a team of nurses and medical assistants at your office. What traits would you say are the most important for an effective leader to have?
Self-confidence and experience. I think that I learned most of how to run an office from the office that I first worked in, and I will thank Dr. Peter on here because most of you all probably know him. And then there's a saying that's used in a lot of different fields, and that is fake it till you make it, which means that act like you know what you're doing, and then people will believe that you know what you're doing, and eventually you will know what you're doing. So I think that learning how to run a business, and I left an office and I opened my own office, and I've run my own office now for, 12, 13 years. It's really on the job training. You just have to pick it up. So,
So, Ms. Naziri, you have worked with some of the most iconic tech companies around the globe, including Microsoft, Qualcomm, and Google. How have you managed to create those partnerships?
In every industry, this is real life, guys, you need to have connections, whether that's warm leads or cold leads. I think that along my journey, it was really important for me to always establish relationships. And what's important to say right now, relationships look very different now compared to what it was even 6 months ago. And as we continue to go towards this next path, I think it's very important to make sure whenever you meet someone, you are always providing some sort of value. In my industry, I've met so many people. There's so many people to, have relationships with and to work with, but you want to make sure you're always providing value. And in terms of working with these companies, I always emailed companies or they emailed me, and I thought about what kind of value can I bring to their audience? How can I help them grow? I do a lot of consulting on social media strategy and video development and content creation. And for me, I always have to take a step back and think about, okay, what is the audience looking for? What do they want? And how can we provide something that they never knew they needed, or something that they already knew they needed, and we can kind of bring it in a different caliber and in a different way of explaining things. And so when it comes to those different organizations, naturally, whenever I worked with one company and they saw my work, then more work continued to come. And I've been really lucky enough to work with these amazing, amazing brands that are doing great work in this space.
So, Ms. Kahn, you have been working with women in STEM for years now. What have you observed to be their biggest obstacles in their path, and how have they worked to overcome them?
Exposure, number one. When I did the robotics team, and I would ask the kids, what do you want to do? All the girls said, I want to do business. All the boys said, I want to build the robot. And what we did was we started having the girls come in and meet with mentors. I tried to bring in some female mentors for them. I had one woman from Raytheon. I had one woman from WDI, Walt Disney Imagineering. They needed to be exposed to women who did these things as a career to see that, oh, maybe I can see myself doing this. And so a lot of it, I really believe it's exposure. And and getting them just to try, to take that first leap, you know, not to be afraid, not to listen to what the boys would say at times. And I heard it a lot of times, like, the guys are going to handle this. And I would walk up to a girl and stick a drill in their hand and say, get over here, let's do this. Let's learn how to solder, let's learn how to drill some holes. If you make a mistake, so what? You learn by making a mistake. But again, it was just getting them to take that first step. That was always the hardest. And then once they did, I ended up having a lot of girls go into coding. And they had no intention of doing that. They thought they were going to do PR for the team or the marketing or the, you know, our MorTorq's TV show or whatever it was. But again, once they started to say, oh, well, this isn't so frightening and this is actually cool and I like this, it was just about the exposure.
Thank you. Dr. Klausner, what would your advice be to young girls wanting to pursue a career in the STEM field?
Okay. Some things that other people have said, networking is very important. If there's something that you guys are interested in, try and find someone to show you more about it. As people said, if women have no exposure to these fields, they're not interested in them. So try and look around and see, I said this earlier before we were taped, ask your friends' moms and your mom's friends. Most successful women want to help young girls become accomplished themselves. So if there's something that you think you're interested in, try and find someone who does that and ask them, hey, can I come see your work? Can I come follow you around one day? Can I come see what you do? I don't need you to take a job in it. I don't need you to commit 50 hours to working in a particular field. I want everyone to go and look around and try a little bit of everything. When I was in high school at Beverly, I did a summer program. I encourage you guys all to look for summer programs on college campuses. There are lots, and there are ones that are directed specifically at women. There are ones that are directed specifically at women in STEM. Find something that interests you and go out and pursue it. Because the more you know about, the more likely you are to find your niche.
Thank you for your advice. A follow-up question. I remember that you told me that you offer internships to young people wanting to become doctors. How do you aim to inspire future generations of doctors?
Well, I hope I inspire them. Maybe they come to my office and they don't end up liking pediatrics and they pick something else. But so I didn't, neither of my parents were doctors, so I didn't follow in somebody's footsteps. But when I was at Beverly, they had a community internship program, and I worked at Cedars and got to rotate through different departments and saw, wow, this is kind of cool. Wow, this is not for me. Wow, this is interesting. And just to see all the different choices. So I've offered to, I have some connections at UCLA, and I've had a bunch of women from UCLA who come and rotated through my office. They come and follow me around for a morning and see me with patients and see me talk to other doctors and see me kind of manage the office poorly. And I encourage people to do that. I have had some patients of mine as young as like 5th grade come and follow me around, because I always tell my own patients, hey, if you're interested, come, you can spend an hour, you can come look at me looking at little babies. And people seem to really like that. And I think that a lot of kids don't realize that that's available. They don't realize, hey, if I asked my uncle's girlfriend who does this, whatever, if I could come follow her in the office, she would be more than happy to have her do that. So I would love to offer all of the girls at Beverly. Oh, I actually had a student from Beverly work in my office this year. I decided I needed someone to do some, scanning front office stuff, and I called the medical science, what's it called? The Medical Science
Academy.
Thank you. I called someone from the Medical Science Academy and I say, hey, do you have a student who's interested in pediatrics? And I had one of your just graduating seniors work in my office this semester, and it was great. And I will probably hire someone from your school again. But I encourage people to just dip their toes into it. You don't have to make a big commitment. You don't have to say, this is a semester-long internship, or this is a job I have to go to even if I don't like it, I encourage people to just call up and say, hi, I'm kind of interested. Can I come check it out?
So moving back to Ms. Naziri, you have built a tremendous following on social media. What advice would you give to other girls who are looking to be influencers but don't want to follow the stereotypical path?
There is so much content out there right now, especially more than ever. Everyone is glued to their phones consuming content. So now, whether you're in high school, middle school, going off to college, is always a great time to really spend the time and talk about things that you know about, talk about things that excite you, or even do some research and see, what makes you excited. I personally love technology because it sheds time out of my day. It really makes life easier. So I'm always looking for the latest apps and gadgets and hacks to really interlace with my life and make the things that I don't necessarily need to do just be automated for me. And so there's a lot of autonomous tools out there, AI, integrations with email, and these are things that I like talking about. So if you are watching this and you like things like that, or if you find something interesting, I really recommend you using your iPhone. It's great quality, using your Android phone, your Samsung, and just recording yourself and putting it out there. And initially you start off with maybe 10 followers, and slowly as you continue to create content, the key here is consistency. As you continue to create consistent content, that's how you continue to grow. And when you put something out, you'll get a following base that also has interest in what you're putting out there, that also wants to know more about what you're putting out there. And so my recommendation really is to put content out there that you find interesting, and then also asking your audience, what do you want to see more of? What do you want to learn about? So you're also creating content that the other people will like as well.
That's great advice, and it's so nice to know that this could be a career for so many.
Absolutely. It's really interesting. When I was in college, when I was in high school, this was not a career. We never expected this to be anything, and now it's really become a full-fledged business. People are posting pictures, whether that's at their computer desk coding, to outside in a bikini shot, whatever floats your boat. I'm not recommending that or downplaying that, but there are businesses out there where people are influencing and talking about their experiences with different gadgets, with different bathing suits, with different suntan lotions. And for me, I think the most important thing to always remember is to be authentic. So talk about something you actually care about.
And for my last question, I'd like to ask it to each of you. How can we better equip the boys and men in our community to really support the women that are around them?
So this is Jordan, my baby boy. He just turned 1. And when I first found out that I was having a boy, I was in utter shock. I was so excited. I thought I was having a girl to show and lead her the way and pave the way for future women in tech. And I found out that I was having a boy, and I said to myself, it doesn't matter if it's a girl or a boy. Men are in this together. We are allies. We help one another. We're not supposed to have a pity party. We all bring each other up, and we're all inspiring the next generation together.
Okay, well, first of all, when you put 2 kids next to each other, like little Jordan next to a little girl, there's no difference. They learn the same way. And the thing is that for our older boys, we need to tell them to take a step back and let the girls in and try the things that they're doing. And honestly, I've not found that there's a different learning style really between boys and girls. Everybody's capable of learning everything. But as you get older, or in some cultures, it's not as acceptable. And we need to change that perception. And again, we need the girls to just march in there and feel confident and not step aside. Never step aside. Just be there and enjoy it and have fun and learn. And if somebody tells you you can't do it, well, I have choice words for that, but anything is possible. And we sort of need to change our culture a little bit to show that it's not just the white male who's the tech person. And so again, I'm going to keep doing it in entertainment. I'm going to keep doing it, hopefully in South America and around the world. because that's what we need to do. We need to lead by example.
I think that when children are young, that we don't have to guide them in a particular direction based on our cultural references. I think that if we let young boys and young girls follow their interests instead of trying to push them towards math and science if they're boys and push them away from math and science if they're girls, I think that naturally people will follow their own path. And I think that for boys and young men, this generation has done a much better job of allowing women to participate equally compared to the generation of myself and Ms. Kahn, where it was presumed that the men would lead and the men would do science and the women would sit back and the women would take care of babies and stay home. All of the women that you see here have kids, and we all are successful in our STEM fields. So for girls who are afraid that pursuing science will keep them from being moms, it's not true. There's always that opportunity. There's never the right time to have a baby when you're working, but there's never the wrong time either. So I think that we should continue to encourage kids, both male and female, to follow their passions, and don't let them be discouraged by usually older people trying to push them in a direction that they should follow their hearts.
I want to thank each of you for spending your time with us and sharing your words of wisdom with our audience. And truly thank you for the countless impacts you've had on our community.
Thank you all for tuning in to our virtual Women in STEM panel. We hope to see you all at our next Women in STEM event. Thank you so much for watching.